What's up, people? How you doing? Yes, I got an author on the show today. You don't know. Oh, well, you probably do know. I love authors. Yes, because we all be what? Yeah, you got it. You already know me. Idiots without them. Okay, yeah, yes, definitely. Idiots, okay? We wouldn't even know how to tie our own shoe without an author writing it down first. So I tell you what, I have an amazing author on the show today. Her name is Mary Klein, and she is going to be talking about her book. But first of all, she's going to be talking about how she got to the point where she actually knew she had to write this book. So I want to welcome her to the show. Welcome to the show.
Hi there.
Hey.
How I got started, it
Yeah.
started
So
as
let's go
poetry.
back a little further. I mean, when did you start writing?
Goodness, I really had no intention of writing a book. And I didn't even think I could write poetry. So for me, it kind of was, I want to say, organic. The book is all poems on domestic violence, and it was really my way of purging what had happened to me over the years. And then one day, all of a sudden, these words just kind of floated, and I started writing them down. Not every poem I've written in the book is in there, but as I started writing them down, and there's a few in there that really have are kind of my favorites, and I would read through them and think, maybe I should tell this story. Maybe the poetry will help somebody else. And that's really how the book came to be.
Wow.
So I just started compiling them, and that's really, and I tried to put them in an order that made sense to me. The first bunch of poems are really about how I felt in the midst of the domestic violence. There's one in there, thankful she sits and wonder in the night, thankful that she has survived. Tears of shame have crossed her face, that by morn will be no trace. And it goes on a little bit further. And so there's those like that really speak to the damage of the domestic violence. And then there's others that I put together that was the healing process. And so the poems literally helped me heal. And that's really, as that I went through that, I thought, again, I'm going to go repeat it again. I just felt that the poetry might help others, because until you've been there, you have no idea. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The cycle of domestic violence can be very horrific.
Yes.
And it's just very dangerous. It's a very dangerous place to be. And the most dangerous place is when you decide to leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did you get out of that? If I may ask, how did that
You're
happen?
more than welcome to. And I literally had to make the decision to leave. Come, excuse my language, hell or high water. I had to find my way out. And so literally would go, I've got the kids, what am I going to do? I have a daughter and a son. And they weren't toddlers anymore. My daughter was going on 10, and my son he was 15 going on 16. And I literally told myself, they're going to be okay. I have to leave. They'll be okay. And I really had to harden my heart so that I walked out the door. I just literally walked out the door, and then had to work to heal them and get them back, if that makes sense. And I think that's one of the hardest things, is that sometimes the woman has to leave just to get the anger. At least in my case, I had to get the anger to stop, and my leaving stopped the anger, because it wasn't at the children he was um, physically abusive to. I mean, verbal and the mental, all the others was there, the verbal, the mental, and the emotional, but they were being even more abused through his abuse of me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the especially the young man and the young lady,
Yeah.
the men think that it's okay to hit their wives, and then
Mm-hmm.
the young ladies think it's okay for the men to hit them when they become wives. So it can be
Yes.
psychologically damaging, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I just walked out the door one day, and I knew there was no going back. There was no, we're not going to be able to fix this. And, mine was a long-term marriage of 24 years at that point. So, but I knew that when I walked out that door, there was no going back. And I think that is really hard, especially when you're a younger mother and you have babies and toddlers, little ones. It's much harder for them, trying to find a safe place.
My goodness, my goodness. That was dramatic what you did. I have never heard of anybody just up and walk out the door. That's it.
It was on an Easter Sunday. It's just, so I think about Easter differently. I mean, it was kind of like my rebirth. How's that?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you find that women who get themselves into these kind of relationships have a pattern, something that they're looking for, and then all of a sudden they find themselves in the same situation as they did, before?
Yes, sometimes if they don't acknowledge that, if they don't, oh shoot, I don't even know the right word. I know what I mean. I know I got into my marriage, and I was very young when I got married. And my parents are divorced, but my dad had a temper. I don't remember my dad ever striking my mother. But I do remember him with this, he'd slam his fist on the table and cuss and holler and that type of stuff. Um, and so I think for myself, and probably, that's usually what it is people marry what they're familiar with, or they fall in love with what they're familiar with. And until they realize what's happening to them, and say enough's enough, it's going to happen over and over and over again. And you see that because
Yeah.
it's what's familiar. I've never remarried. I went through my dating years, and I've just, went, nope.
I hear you. I hear
Yeah.
it's one thing to just be solo for a while. And I mean, what is it like for you? Because you said you married pretty young, right? So maybe, do you even remember being in love with yourself?
Um, when I was, what? No. If I was 19, he was 22, fell in love with him in high school. But I don't remember ever feeling like I was worthy. And that has to do with my childhood. So, I never thought I was smart enough, pretty enough, that when I was younger. And it had a lot to do with my childhood. So, yeah, it wasn't until I was actually divorced, and in my mid 40s, I looked in the mirror and went, "You're not too bad looking." So, yeah, I think that had a lot to do with. I know I dated gentleman, and I had the silver's premature. It's from my dad's side of the family. And when I was 44, I finally let it grow out. And I probably dated this gentleman. I was in my late 40s. And he said to me one day, he says, I think you're wonderful. He said, but I don't want to be, with somebody who looks like a grandma. That was the end of the relationship. And I was like, okay, I guess that's the end of this one. Yeah.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah. And
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You get these idiots. I'm sorry.
We can call them that.
that don't understand what they have. I mean, you have the smart ones, and then you have the idiots, and you're gonna have that in every race, creed, color, tall, short, whatever,
Yeah.
and you just got to keep going, or you just stop. I mean, but now, what about, okay, the book is great, and I'm going to get back to that. I'm going to get back to your poetry, but how did your children, take it when you wrote the poetry, and how are they doing now?
So my children were adults when I started writing the poetry. They were no longer at home. And so they both know I wrote the book. I made sure I put that out there. And the book, the author on the book is in my pen name, not my actual name. And so they know it's out there. And my son, he'll be 35 this year. And he lives in Washington, D.C. And when I went out there to visit him and his partner, Jeffrey, this last year, we had some conversations. And, my son has really taken the role of, I don't want anger in my life. If somebody's around me who has anger, they don't need to be in my life. And that's his full truth. He just doesn't allow it.
And that's good.
And my daughter, she'll be 30 this next summer. And she has 4 of the cutest little grandbabies you'll ever see. But I'm a little partial. But it's interesting with her. And the kids are still, they're still have relationships with their father too. So, which is very, very good. And she was always daddy's little girl, but I do see her with the grandkids. One of them's got a little bit of a temper. And when they start throwing fits, she will calmly get in front of them and say, okay, you got to get control of your emotions. So let's just sit here and breathe and talk about your emotions. And so she's really very good with them in regards to, talking about their emotions and letting them, have their little fits when they're all kids are going to, and I mean, they're age 2 to age 7. So she's got her hands full. So she's just very, very good with communicating them about their feelings and their big feelings. And if they want to have a fit, fine, go have a fit, but they don't get in trouble for it.
Right.
They might go to timeout, but that's about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Your relationship after you walked out the door with your children, when did you recapture that and teach them that what was happening was wrong, so that they can be on the path that they're on today? I think that a lot of parents don't rectify that. They just try to move forward and not backwards, but you first got to move backwards to move forwards.
Yes. And so what happened after we got divorced, because what I did for a living back then is I traveled all the time. I was in retail and a district manager. So what happened is my son was old enough, he came to live with me, and my daughter still lived with her dad because she could walk to her school and during the week. And then I got her, weekends and every chance I could get her. And so what happened was my son was starting to act up. There was an incident, I won't go into it because he won't appreciate me going into it. That's his
That's fine.
story.
Yeah, that's fine.
But it got us into counseling. It got the two kids and myself into counseling in regards to domestic violence, you know, because really it wasn't until then where I acknowledged that that's what I'd been through, you know. To me, that was the way family life was kind of for my childhood. So,
Right.
yeah.
Wow. And then after that, you guys kind of patched everything up and was able to move forward. You know, this is wonderful because you went to counseling with your children and then you patched, and then after you kind of admitted that that was what you were going through, then the poetry began.
The poetry probably began, I'm going to say almost 7 years after I was divorced. Yeah. That's when I got on the dating spree. And, silly me. And so it was really after that time period. And that was probably me learning, you know, to be who I was. And it was about 7 years, and that's when the poetry just started to flow. And I felt that release, that healing from it, you know. And today, I mean, I can't sit down and go, I'm going to write a poem today.
Right.
It just is something that it's like automatic writing. And, you know, and even in the book, I say it comes from my angels, you know, that's where I feel it comes from. So
definitely.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. You know, it's very important that we show and depict the after life of, you know, leaving domestic violence. How do you feel today as a person, as a woman, as someone who has survived? Do you love yourself today? And what kind of advice do you give to that woman that's watching you today that is stuck in that kind of relationship?
So yes, I love myself. Very much so. I'm pretty darn proud of myself. You know, I can put my mind to something and go, okay, we're going to do this and this is the way we're going to do it, and just go for it. My advice to a woman who's in that situation, or even afterwards, be gentle with yourself. If you're in the situation, then find your whoops. You disappeared. Find your find your safe, find somebody who is your safe person, somebody who you can run to if you need to run to. I was lucky enough, I was able to call my big sister, and that's where I went. So if you have somebody, even if it's a good friend, even if it's somebody you know from work that you feel comfortable with and safe with, maybe it's somebody from you, if you go to church, maybe it's somebody from your church, but try to find that person you can reach out to, and know it's okay to speak about domestic violence, because when people who are in domestic violence, they don't speak about it, and that's the silence is what manifests it, and it keeps it going, and that's the cycle. So in speaking about it, you actually break that cycle. So find your safe person, reach out, because they'll probably reach out and help, you know, even if they don't realize you were in there until you say something. And then it's just kind of a daily healing, maybe a daily prayer every day, or just a little mine is nothing can keep me from reaching my goals. And I had that in my visor of my car when I would drive as a district manager, and I would look at that and go like, okay, we're going to keep doing this until we get out. So that would be, did I answer the question? I think I
Yes, you
did.
did.
I start going.
And that's wonderful. We all have to be that person that tells you, the person that's in that situation, that you are worth more.
Yes.
You definitely are
Yeah.
worth more. And awakened by my angels, learning to heal.
Yep. And
Wow.
that's how I learned to heal, was through the poetry.
Mhm.
So, and it's still a daily thing. I mean, even all these years, I mean, this weekend was 17 years. This weekend was my anniversary of my divorce.
Mhm.
And so even now, there's days that if I look back too much, it'll suck me back in. So I really try to just face forward all the time and go
Right.
like, those are the memories. And I try to remember the good memories.
Right. Okay, so what kind of a standard do you set for the next person that might be a viable candidate?
For writing?
Because, you say you stopped dating, but there's always those standards now. I mean, you must have high standards now in comparison to your relationship. Now you know what you want.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know if I have, I have pretty high standards. Yeah. So if if I've had a couple of dates, and all of a sudden maybe he starts comparing me to his mother. You know what happens.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, right.
Or he mentions past relationships where she wasn't a good person because of this or this. When I start hearing things like that, I'm like, okay, it's time to run fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not opposed to dating. I'm just going to let it happen organically now,
Mhm.
versus trying to go out and find somebody. How's that?
I hear you. I hear
Yeah.
you. But it's important to know that your standards are higher, and because you loved yourself. And it
Yeah,
took time.
it is. It is. And, the other thing too, is that person's got to be willing to accept, even though, I'm single and my kids are grown, they are still my family.
Yeah.
They've got to be willing to accept the adult children and the grandkids too. And, if they're not willing to accept that, then I'm not willing to have them in my life.
I hear you.
And vice versa. I mean, if I wasn't willing to accept somebody's family,
Right.
in a relationship, then I shouldn't be in their life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Dating is different for every age. And as you get older, you have to accept what has happened in the past to that person, and be able to create a future that's even better than the past. I think that's what the challenge is.
That really is the challenge. Yeah.
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 Oh,
And,
well, wow.
sometimes, and you get to a certain age and you're on your own for long enough, you're just kind of get like, do I really want anybody else in my house?
You're like, that is my couch. Oh my remote control. Oh
That's my dirt, my couch. It's my stuff.
my stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
And they have to be somebody special to share in your stuff now.
Yeah, exactly. If they want, accept me as I am, I guess,
Yeah,
what you see is
definitely.
what you get. I mean,
That's it.
I don't put on airs, so this is me.
I hear you, but you're beautiful.
Oh,
And
thank you.
congratulations on, moving forward and loving yourself. And Awakened by Angels can be found where?
You can find it through, my mind went blank. Amazon. It's right on Amazon, and go to the books and just type in awakened by my angels learning to heal, and it'll pop.
Definitely will. And we're going to go ahead and put that in the description box below so that it'll be easy for you guys to find it. Awakened by My Angels, Learning to Heal. And your pen name is Maxine Allen Reffenberg.
Rifenburgh. Yeah.
Rifenberg.
Maxine
See?
Allen Rifenburg.
See?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so very much. I have to say Maxine because that way people know it's under Maxine.
Yeah, Maxine. It's my
Yeah.
middle name. So
There you go. There you
there you
go.
go. All
There
right.
you go. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. And again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to dare to be different. And if you do find yourself in a situation that you need to walk out of, please find someone that, like she said, that you can trust. It's a
Yep.
dangerous situation to begin with, and it makes it even more compounded when you try to leave. And if you try to leave with your children, it's even harder. So please make sure that you're safe when you leave. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Bye.